Support Pro Play Games on Patreon.
Hey guys, how's it going? It's your boy Yeehaw Yadam, and for today's video we're going to be doing a quick little deck profile on Lorcana. Now, Lorcana is a game that doesn't necessarily come out until the middle to end of August. We'll see when it comes out, but it's a game that I've been really enjoying, been testing a lot, and I'm just doing these videos early so you guys know what to expect. With early deck profiles, once the game comes out, you guys can dominate your locals. So, without further ado, let's get into the card by card. Before we get started with the card by card, I can't stress this enough, guys. These are proxies. We did make these just once again, so we can go ahead and play the game, figure out how it's played, see how it feels when you go ahead and shuffle the cards. So I know the cards aren't necessarily out yet, these are just proxies. I also can't stress this enough, but check out this fantastic PPG playmat that we went ahead and made for Lorcana. It's just going to increase your swag and also your gameplay and your lore by 3. Patented, I swear. Your lore just goes up to 3 every time that you play on this mat. So, starting off with the items. Again, this is a Steel Amethyst tempo deck, but the card that really is the crutch of this entire deck is the Beast Mirror. So, for those of you that don't know, the Beast Mirror is an item card. Now, item cards in this game work very similar to permanents in Magic, or just, yeah, I think that's the best way I can go ahead and explain it. So once you pay its initial cost, right, so it's a cost of 2, it is inkable, and once it's on the board, I can pay 3 ink to go ahead and do its effect, right? And I can do this once per turn since it costs, I have to go ahead and exhaust it. If I have multiple mirrors on the board, I can do their effects in multiple, as long as I can go ahead and exhaust multiple of them. The only thing is I have to pay the ink, which this deck doesn't really do a good job at paying for 3 of them, but I can surely pay at least for 2. Now, what the Beast Mirror does is that if I'm at 0 cards in hand, it just for 3 ink, draw another card, which is what you want to do, because in this game, if you have noticed from the previous game, you get really low in hand size and you're basically top decking the entire game. Because at some point, by in minusing 1 by playing a card and inking every single turn, you eventually run out of cards and you will need multiple card draws, and there's very little card draw in this game as it is. The Beast is just one of the many ways that you can consistently get draw from your cards every single turn. So this deck kind of plays a little bit lower to the ground and uses the Beast Mirror in conjunction with other very powerful cards to push the tempo. Now, speaking of powerful cards, I'm going to move on to and that's it for the items in this deck. Moving on to the actions, I'm going to use 4 Fire the Cannons. Now, Fire the Cannons is a card that states just deal 2 damage. I pay 1 ink, it deals 2 damage. This is a non-inkable card, which is very important to know because that ability is very, very powerful. Dealing 2 damage may not seem like a lot, but when people are trying to value trade into you, they're just swinging their Maleficents, there's 7/5s into your 3 added minions, they leave 2 health on the Maleficent, and then instead of having to lose another character, I can just pay 1 ink to go ahead and destroy it, which is very, very important. Now, action cards immediately, they're just like spells in other games. Once you use them, they just kind of go to the discard pile or the trash. And then for our final bits of actions, on the steel color, we go ahead and use Smash. Now, Smash is different from Fire the Cannons as it is inkable, but as Fire the Cannons is 1 for 2, Steel is a 3 for 3, right? So they kind of balance cards by making them a little bit more, stat reliant when they're go ahead and do like fair amounts of value. So a 3 for 3 is pretty fair, so you can ink it. 1 for 2 is too good, so you can't ink it, right? And that's how they try to balance these certain cards. Now, Smash is very, very good because a lot of the best characters in the game are just in that 3 health threshold. You have Hercules, you have all these early game minions. This kind of just goes ahead and deals with it. And if they may be playing around Fire the Cannons, but they might not be able to play around Smash when they go ahead and trade into your creatures. And then for our only Amethyst related action, we have the Friends on the Other Side. Now, Friends on the Other Side is a fantastic card, again, with a very limited card pool that lets you draw cards. Friends on the Other Side lets you just draw 2, and Pot of Greed is a fantastic card no matter what the game. So this card can be sung, which is also very important. Oftentimes, many cards don't allow you to sing them. None of these cards can be sung, just for example, on these actions, but Friends on the Other Side usually can. So we go ahead and use we try to use it on the Wardrobe, we try to use it on Maleficent. Once we have the tempo established, their opponent doesn't have cards on the board because we fired them, we smashed them, all of a sudden they don't have any characters. So we go ahead and just sing our characters, get our draws for free, and then now we're really, really pushing the tempo. So this card, very enjoyable. And now off to the characters, right? So I'm going to start off with the highest cost characters and then move down, or maybe I should play on the, I'll just do it on curve. So I'll start off with the 1 costed characters, and well, this is one of the strongest, if not one of the strongest 1 costed characters in the game. We have Pascal. Now Pascal, we play 4 of it, is a 1 mana inkable character that is 1/1 with 1 lore, right? Doesn't seem very exciting once you look at it. It's a 1/1/1 for 1. So you think to yourself, what can Pascal do? Well, Pascal has a very nice tagline. It has the camouflage ability. Now, camouflage allows you to gain evasive as long as you have another friendly character on the board, right? So usually you'll pay Pascal out on your turn 2. You'll follow it up with another 1-drop, a 2-drop, and now Pascal, the evasive characters that can contest him are usually much more higher costed. Goofy, as a good example, is a 5 costed character, so he can at least go ahead and quest maybe 3 to 4 times before Goofy can even enter the board. And then if I can remove Goofy, they still have no answer for Pascal, which slowly but surely ticks at my opponents because I get lore every single turn from it. Now, there are scenarios where if they remove the other characters from my board, they can attack into Pascal, but you don't want to really play into that. So as long as you keep up a character in active position, non-exhausted, it's very hard for them to truly deal with the Pascal. And if you have multiple Pascals, well, my goodness, are we gaming. Followed up with another fantastic, they're not fantastic, but I do play Goons. This is a card that is subjective. I know some people play Maleficent in this spot. Maleficent is a 1 mana 1/1 that lures for 2. This is a 1 mana 2/2 that lures for 1. Now, this is just it's a better statted character. Usually you don't get much better than that for a 1 cost in most of these card games, right? Because I attribute this game very similar to Hearthstone. Even in Hearthstone, it took us years before we were able to play a 1 mana 2/2 in the standard format, right? So in this game, they were a little bit aggressive with the 1 cost, so we have a 1 mana 2/2, and it just kind of helps you contest cards that are very low statted to the ground, and you sometimes need that extra 2 damage. It doesn't always quest for lore, but if you are in a position where my opponent isn't really applying pressure, Goons can just, along other characters, can just get lore for free early, and then I can use it basically as a fire the cannons when I challenge a character. Then I will be playing 4 of another very powerful 1-drop, Captain Hook. Now, Captain Hook, the 1-drop, is another card that in Hearthstone terms took years before we had something similar to this. Now, he is a 1 mana 1/2, so again, worse stats than the Goon, but this card gains the Challenger ability. Now, Challenger basically says it gains +2 attack power when it challenges a character, and only in that instance. So you can use this to remove 2 3s, 3 2s, anything that gets that weird stat line like Hades even, and it kind of reaches, right? So early game, once again, it's very hard to deal with the Captain Hook, but not only that, it could go ahead and just deal a little bit further than the Goons can. That Challenger ability is very, very powerful and allows you to deal with the board much better than usual. So they're cards that, although they don't have a heavy health total, they have a nice attack total. And there's that drawback, right? That if I use this to value trade into like any card with a 1 costed spell. Let me just talk about Cruella, right? So Cruella is a 1/3 stat line. This trades into the Cruella, becomes a 1/1, and I can go ahead, and even though Cruella does bounce it, right? But in the scenario that there is a 1/3, this can go ahead and get really, really solid value. Then I do play 3 Imza. Now, again, probably butchering that name, but again, it's been a while since I watched The Emperor's New Groove. Don't hate me. So Imza, just when it's a 2 mana 2/2 that is inkable, that states when I quest her, I can look at the top card of my deck, which is really, really cool when you play the Beast Mirror. So I know exactly what I'm top decking, because there are a lot of cards in this deck that don't really do much in certain scenarios. So Imza, alongside the Beast Mirror, can just help me really filter for what I'm looking for. Then I play 4 Prince Erics. Now, Prince Eric is basically Captain Hook, but just statted just a little bit better. It gained a 3 in the health department, and that's all I really gained, right? Captain Hook is a 1/2, this is a 1/3, and they both are Challenger +2. So it just allows me to just get better value trades. Eric just trades into the 2 3s just too cleanly in comparison to the Hook. Now, with the 3 drops, we don't really have a great amount of them, and they're not very sexy, as you would say. Like, they're not very interesting, but I'm going to do my best to explain why I play them and the reasons that I do. So starting off with the first one, and a very powerfully statted card, we have the Wardrobe. Now, the Wardrobe, again, I'm just going to keep using Hearthstone as my main example. The Wardrobe is very similar to Spider Tank, and Spider Tank was a card that, again, took us years to get, but once we got the first 3 mana 3/4, they kind of just stuck around for the majority of the game, right? That's a very nicely defensive stat line. It deals with literally all of these cards for free. They have to 2v1 me if they even want to get. They have to use this plus removal spell. This gets 2v1'd all the time. And then I can also play this with the friends from the other side. So if I'm able to keep board control with these characters, challenge the other characters, now I have the wardrobe. I can play the friends from the other side without feeling like I'm going to get contested or challenged in a way. Whereas when I play Maleficent, which yes, this does have a nice little effect. Maleficent is a 2/2 that draws one. You don't really feel safe with Maleficent. Now, even when it's rested, it can be removed by, again, Prince Eric very easily, and almost every single character I have here can challenge right through the Maleficent, but I don't really get the full value, right? If I go ahead and I do this in an empty board state, that's fine, but if not, it usually gets removed quite for free. And then for our last 3-drop, one of my favorite cards in the game, favorite Disney homie, Hercules. Now Hercules, again, like I said in the video, has the bodyguard tag. So as a 3-mana 3/3 with 1 lore, the bodyguard tag just basically says that if you attack me, if you attack any of my creatures, if you challenge them, they must challenge me first, right? It has the taunt mechanic. So very, very solid. Once you have the board presence, you go ahead and I quest all my characters, and all of a sudden they have to deal with the Hercules before they get any of the value trades, and sometimes that's not very easily accomplished. So very, very solid. Enjoying the Hercules a lot. Then for our only 4-drop, we're playing Captain Hook. Now, Captain Hook is a little anti-synergistic in this deck because of the mirror, right? So there are scenarios, since it is not an inkable card, there are situations where you draw it and you can't really like play it, so it kind of slows down your mirror process, and you'll notice it the more that you play this deck. But I do really like Captain Hook because it just says for 4 mana it is a 3/4, so it has a good stat line very similar to the wardrobe, but for 1 more mana it just allows me to grab the cannons back. So it's basically a wardrobe plus a cannons to add a cannon. It's not necessarily the most value-centric card, but it's very, very good at just continuously dealing board pressures, because if I have 1 cannon in rotation, I now have 5 cannons in rotation. If I can just keep cannoning you to get the tempo in my favor, it usually ends up working very, very well. Not my favorite card. I know a lot of people do not play it in their steel deck, but I'm just an enjoyer of Captain Hook in general. I think he's really, really cool, especially since he's a Jolly Roger, so, you know, for all you One Piece enjoyers. I also play 4 of the Beast, and the Beast is one of the most powerful cards in this metagame because of the fact that it is one of the only cards that we have seen shown at this point in time that can remove an item, right? There are not many cards that just say remove an item, deal with an item. So once you have cards like Beast Mirror or the Mirror from Sleeping Beauty, Maleficent's Mirror, then we have a really tough time, right? We can't remove those cards, and they are continuously going to grant my opponent advantage. And there are situations where these cards in conjunction, not together, but maybe even one of them, just wins you the game on its own, because allowing you to just grind those matchups further and further by drawing 1 extra card is super duper significant. Beast just says no to that mechanic, and also he's not well statted, but that effect is just so good that we definitely play him in multiples in the deck. At the worst, he is an inkable card. He is a 4/4 stat line, so I guess it's pretty darn good. And he does also quest for 2 lore. So when you have all of that put together, you know, it's not necessarily a horrible situation to be in. I'm going to go ahead and shift these real quick because we just have a couple cards left in the deck. Not much that really needs to be talked about, except where I play a 2 of the Cerberus. Now Cerberus, wow, there really isn't much space. I'm going to keep shifting, I guess. So we'll go ahead and shift all the way over here. I hope you guys can just see the card better on the board. So we play a 2 of the Cerberus. Now Cerberus just goes ahead and is a 5 mana 5/6. This is literally Pit Fighter once again from Hearthstone. So really, really good stat lines. It contests all of the 4 health minions, and most importantly, Aladdin. Aladdin is a 5/5. Mickey is a 5/5. All these characters with that 5/5 stat line, they have a very powerful effect. The Cerberus just says, sure, brother. Really cool effect. Come at me. I'm a 5/6. I have that 1 extra life threshold, and they're going to have to either give you a piece of removal alongside with it or 2 for 1. So it's always going to get that 2 for 1, and depending on the board states, sometimes even a 3 for 1. Again, in base sets, a lot of these very strong vanilla characters just get away with a lot more than they should, and the Cerberus and the Wardrobe are just really good examples of that. We also played 3 Mickey Mouse Musketeer. Mickey Mouse Musketeer is a 2/7 bodyguard, so very similar to the Hercules from before, but that 7 health tagline is so important because it's very, very thick. This Mickey is a thick boy. He is a 6-costed character, so I get it's going to be harder for us to get to that, but 2/7 is really, really solid. He has bodyguard. He also gains 2 lore. If you don't need him, you just ink him. And lastly, we're playing 2 of the Simba just to go ahead and let us reach into the evasive characters. And those evasive characters are very, very powerful and are very difficult to deal with in conjunction, like Goofy, Mickey, Tigger. All these cards are eventually just going to get free lore and allow these Ruby decks to catch up very, very easily. And Simba kind of puts a halt to that unless he gets Maleficent. But I hope you guys enjoy this deck profile. I know there's going to be a lot more Lorcana action coming your way on this channel. We are really excited for this game's release, as many of you are as well. So make sure to check out for us for more videos. Check out our Patreon for more Lorcana content. Check out the PPG website for the mat. And we'll see you guys later on the Bomb Diggity. I don't know how to end this video. See you later.